Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Teacher Transition Expert Series. Are you an educator looking to explore new career possibilities? Do you often feel overwhelmed by the thought of even transitioning out of the classroom? If so, you're in the right place. This series was created for educators just like yourself. Trust me, I've been there myself. In this episode, we are joined by Tyrina Lassiter, a career transition coach who understands the unique challenges and immense potential that educators have who are looking to make that change. Get ready to gain invaluable insights and practical tips in this episode. And with all of our episodes, we hope that you'll grab your favorite beverage, kick up those feet, turn up the volume, and let's get ready to do this. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Leena Marie Saleh, the EdTech Guru. I want to thank you so much for spending time with me on this journey, for all the support that you give me, and for following along. Don't forget to hit the thumbs up button, subscribe, and let's get ready to do this. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Teacher Transition Expert Series. Today, we have the pleasure of being joined by Tyrina Lassiter. Tyrina, how are you doing today?
I'm great. How are you, Leena?
Good. I'm so happy to be connected, and I know we've been connected for a while, but it's nice to have you on. Tyrina is a career transition coach geared specifically for educators. So we are excited to share her wealth of knowledge with you all. And I know this is a highly sought after topic. So I'm just excited to share your knowledge today.
Yeah, I'm excited to be on. This is going to be great.
All right. So we'll kick things off with who you are, tell us a little bit of background, and then basically how you got to where you are today.
Yeah, so I'm Tyrina Lassiter, and I'm a career transition coach for educators. Wow, that's a loaded question. I've been a coach for educators for I'm going into my fourth year. Um, the business moved pretty fast, I will say. I feel like I started around the time where the transitioning educator movement was growing, and a lot of teachers just didn't know what direction they wanted to go in. And so when I started, I was only offering like help with resumes and interviews, and now we have scaled to helping with everything. So just a little bit about my background, my work background and career. I have, oh my gosh, 17 plus years in corporate and nonprofit. I have a huge training background, leadership. I find that a lot of teachers, I help a lot of teachers get into like learning and development and training. So that's why I said that. And when I started helping educators, it was a little after COVID. A lot of things shifted, I will say, in the education industry after COVID. It opened up a lot of educators' eyes as to what they feel they wanted to do if they didn't do if they weren't an educator. And it's pretty scary for anyone who's transitioning, but mainly for teachers because most of my clients, that's all they've ever done. So going in deeper as far as like starting the business, a lot of the processes and techniques, as far as being able to know, like I can look at a person's skill set and know exactly like what they will be great at, especially educators, because essentially, yeah, you may have a title as like a reading specialist or fourth grade educator, but you're a project manager, you're a trainer, a corporate trainer, you're a administrative assistant, you're an executive assistant, there's hundreds and hundreds of roles that teachers essentially do every day. They just didn't have the title or the resume to showcase that. And so I used all of my knowledge of as far as transitioning careers, because I've transitioned careers quite a few times as well, especially as my family grew. I have two children, by the way. And it that beginning part of the process is super important to know what you have the skills for. And I know we'll get into this deeper later, but it is so important to have a solid strategy and process when you're starting to transition from any career. Um, and so, all of the things that I've learned over my corporate career and nonprofit has helped me to build processes with T. Lassiter Services, which is the name of my business, and to have the success that I do have with helping transitioning educators.
Yeah, I love that. And I think it's important just for people to understand your background and kind of how you kind of got into this space. I remember, I think it was like closer to the pandemic or maybe a little bit after, but I met Cedric actually on Clubhouse,
Yeah.
the audio app. um,
Yes.
and we kind of chatted, and he's been on an episode, but he was telling me about how you were working with him and reviewing
Yes.
resumes at the time. So it's been really great to see you kind of grow and be able to help other educators. And I've heard such great things, about the services and things that you offer. So I think it's good for just teachers to understand the foundation of like, I think oftentimes with career coaches or whatever. I've been seeing a lot of like that negative talk on LinkedIn lately, and it's
It's
driving
so
me crazy, but I
disheartening.
understand
I
where
get
they're
it.
coming from.
Yeah, because there are coaches out there that don't have good intentions, and I will say, Lena, it I can count on one hand how many I trust. One
Yeah.
is Cedric. I have a couple others, but there's not many. And I do this full time.
Yeah.
When I talk to my family about it, primarily my husband, about starting this business, um, with helping educators, I said if I'm going to do this, I have to do it full time because teachers have no clue what things are like on this side of the job market. You can go into a school, interview, get a job same day. There's a lot more competition on this side of things. And so I really pour and continue, like I've poured and continue to pour my heart and soul into this business. And I don't do it alone. I do have staff. I have other career specialists that I've hired to assist. Um, and it's so rewarding when my clients get interviews, and the icing on the cake is when they get job offers. And so it's important for me to establish those like relationships with my clients too. Like many of my clients, they're my friends now. We still talk on a regular basis. They tell me about their jobs and their families, and they're like, come visit me. Like I actually have to come visit Texas. So I'm gonna have to come visit you, Lena,
Yeah, for
because
sure.
I don't know I do know what's going on in Texas, but it's just like 80% of my
Hmm.
clients that are from Texas. So yeah, it's the tough part is not being able to control how teachers are treated in these schools. And so I kind of also become like kind of like a counselor, a therapist,
Oh,
life
like a life
coach.
coach.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that is
Yep.
not my specialty, but just talking through things, it really helps. It really helps. I meet every single one of my clients. Yes, I have staff, but I meet every single one. I get to know them. They tell me about their families. They tell me about their history. They tell me about their personal likes as well. And all of that helps me to coach them better. Like everyone that comes on to be a T Lassiter Services client is given a personalized experience because everyone's background is not the same. Yes, you're all educators, but you all have different experiences. You all have different, backgrounds and strengths. And so it's important for me to know, deeper information about each and every one of my clients to better coach them. So I know I went on a tangent, but
No, no, I think it's good. No, I think it's good that people understand that there is like a personalization to it.
yeah.
Every once in a while, very, very rarely, I'll help people, take them on full time as like clients, but I've met with a lot of teacher transitioners for just like coffee chats and kind of giving them
Yeah.
guidance
Yeah.
and this sort of thing. And a lot of times, I get like those nasty comments, really a lot lately on like LinkedIn around, coaches, and they're just trying to like take your money and that sort of a
Yeah.
thing. And I think it's
Yeah.
good to understand that you have a good heart in the process and that you're doing this because you want to help educators, not because while it has become your full-time job and that is something that you do, but you do it because the passion drives it,
Yeah.
rather than the income drives it. So I think that's
Yeah.
like an important component when looking for a career coach in this process.
Absolutely. My brand is we help you until you transition. Like a lot of, not to throw shade on other coaches who help, transitioning educators, but I feel like the difference with my company is it doesn't stop after your resume is done. It doesn't stop after we help you with interviews. Like, we don't stop until you get an offer, however long that takes. And it is getting longer as far as the average time to transition. Um, so it's important to know that side of it too. I think a lot of educators, they may think that they're, oh, I'm going to get my resume updated and I'm going to transition within like a week or two. Like, you do know that even the interview process can last a month.
Hmm.
And it wasn't like that before. Again, a lot of things changed after the pandemic. So we are always like revamping and updating our processes to combat the long processes and all the competition that's out there and how many people have applied to these jobs. It's important to keep revamping your own job search strategy, incorporating additional things. It's you have to go with the times. You
Yeah,
can't
you do
keep
have to
doing the
go with
same
the time.
thing.
I think let's dive in a little bit. So as educators, you mentioned this, like they could go to their there's such a shortage of educators that educators can get a job
Oh
for
yeah,
the most part with like no problem.
within the
There
hour,
are
within the hour of
yeah,
your interview.
yeah. And I talked to a teacher transitioner actually recently, and she was like, I'm at the same school I've been at my whole career,
Hmm.
and I'm excited. I'm looking at ways that I should transition, and so that really hasn't prepared for like a lot of like interview practice. Nothing wrong with staying where you are, and I think a lot of teachers do that. I've known a lot
Yeah.
of teachers who've been in the same building for 20, 25
Hmm.
years, and they're like, I
Yeah.
need to get out of here. Um, but I think as an educator, it's all you know. That's all you've ever known,
Right.
right? For a lot of educators. But like on the other side of business, what you're saying is I think they get this false interpretation like it's only going to take a short time for the transition process. But there's a lot more to the transition process than just the application part. There's
Yeah.
the finding of what you want to do and honing in on those hundreds of skills that an educator does. Then after that, it's looking at the job descriptions and making sure that it does actually align. Maybe it's taking an upskilling course where you're like,
Right.
just want to take a no thank you taste. Like, do I really? An example is I thought I wanted to become a programmer because I'm really passionate about computer science. And I taught my students that. And I was like, I could do this full time. I started doing it. I got really in the depths of it. And I was like, oh, this is all I would do every day. Just
Yeah.
sit by myself in a corner and I would have like not any interaction. So there's nothing
Yeah.
wrong with that. But I took that taste, I took the try and I was like, all right, probably not for me. And I went
Yeah.
back to the drawing board.
Yeah.
And I think, it's that honing in of that part. Then it becomes the resume, then it becomes the application and the practicing of the interviews and like all of those other kinds of things. But there's way more steps to a transition than just being like, you know what, I'm going to apply for this job tomorrow. There's like 100 other things that are going to make you have a much more successful career switch than just like as a teacher, you just quickly update a couple things. And honestly, I've been in a lot of educator interviews and they're pretty much the same across the country. Like
Mhm.
they really don't change too much. Maybe you have a couple more than you did in some places, but
Right.
for the most part, it's just like you got an educator background. All right, cool. Let's
All
start
right.
tomorrow. There's no training, there's
No.
no anything. It's just like bam,
No.
you're in and you go into the role. And
Right.
that's it.
It's like you said, it is extremely important to do that groundwork and research on any role that you narrow down. And as far as our processes are concerned, because of how tough the job market is, and I've taught this because I used to do free trainings for educators as far as like narrowing down roles, how your resume should look, how your LinkedIn should look. I used to do all of that. Um, and I slowed down on it a little bit, but I still push out a lot of content, talking about those things. But I find that it's super important to have more than one role narrowed down. Like, putting yourself in a box in this job market is not beneficial.
Hmm.
When I first started helping educators, a lot of educators like, I want to transition into instructional design. It is so oversaturated in instructional
Yeah.
design
And so is customer success. Am
and
I right?
customer success. Now, there's still a lot of
Yeah.
customer success and instructional design roles out there, but to your point too, you have to make sure you've upskilled in the right way
Language. Hmm.
to to be to really stand out amongst all the other candidates who are applying. So going back to my processes, the beginning is like the onboarding part is so crucial. So we look at their resume, we have conversations with them. It's important for me to know what you don't want to do. And we incorporate all of that information, like looking at their resume, their teaching resume, getting more information from them verbally. A lot of times we learn that there's a lot of things that aren't on their resume because they think that their resume just has to be strictly what they've been doing in teaching. I learned that some teachers, I've like learned like like they journal, they're writers on the side, they're choreographers, they've done fundraising, things that may
Booster
not
clubs,
be
like
like,
all kinds of stuff. I know.
yeah, like things that can be transferred to other careers because usually on the teaching resume is just their day to day of what they're doing in the classroom. But guess what? Like you can incorporate the personal things that you've done as well, even if it's freelance, even if it's something that you didn't get paid for. If it's something that you've been doing, if you've mastered and you love it, we can incorporate that as a transferable skill. So we learn all about them in the beginning of the process, and then we provide an exhausted list of like roles that they have the skills for, and we give them the reason why we think why we know they have the skills for this, not think. We also help them to figure out what job boards would have the roles that they're looking for. So we give them a list of that, like ed tech company job boards, and then also the corporate job boards, like, the normal ones. And then of course LinkedIn, of course. If you don't have a LinkedIn page, we're like, oh, you need a LinkedIn. Like nowadays it's not enough to just have a resume. So we go through that. We talk them through that. And with anything that they're super foreign on, not just resume, but if they're a lot of teachers are very foreign with LinkedIn, it can be it's very intimidating for them. And so we do like networking strategies. We help them to understand why you're doing this on LinkedIn, who you need to reach out for. And unfortunately, too, we teach them of like what's a scam and who not to listen to. And just like with any other platform that you can get like weird messages with, it's the same thing. But that beginning process, like we do the research for them. A lot of educators that come to us say, I have an idea of what I want to do, but I'm just not sure. And so us learning more about them helps us to give them a list of like 7 to 10 roles that we feel that they have the skills for. And I'm telling you, Leena, they're just like, I'm so relieved. I'm so glad I hired you because that was what I was having the most difficulty with. Like I would do my research on LinkedIn, I would see like what other educators are transitioning into. But when I would do my research, that's not what I want to do. I don't think I want to do that. And so they feel so much better that we're taking control of that part and then they can just read job descriptions, you know?
Yeah.
So I feel like that out of the whole process is probably the most important part, aside from, updating their resume and everything. But I will say the next part is the job search strategy. You have to have a solid strategy. Once your resume is done, like we take care of that. We update your LinkedIn language, we create your cover letter, we do your resume, we teach you how to use it. And now you have to put what we've taught you to work. And so you have to put the work in. That's the one thing we can't do for you. We cannot apply for you. But guess what? We're with you every step of the way. We are not releasing you as a client. We don't even release them. Like even after our clients get jobs, we're still like, hey, how's the job going? We send us the information for the new job so that we can put it on your resume so your resume is always ready. This may not be your forever job. This may just be a stepping stone. You may stay here for a year or two, gain some more skills and elevate. Um, so that job search strategy part includes networking. You got to network. You just have to. And I've met a lot of introverted teachers, because most of the time you just work with children. Working with adults is different. Talking with adults is different. And I also find too, Leena, it's very hard for teachers to talk about themselves.
Yes. It's funny. I
So I
was
have to
just talking to
teach
someone
them
about it.
that. Yeah.
Yeah,
And it's fun. I
Mhm.
love helping boost teachers' confidence, especially because like all of my clients are amazing. you know? And I'm just like, you can do this. And then when they get that job offer, they're just like, oh my gosh, Tyrina, thank you so much for the boost of confidence. I'm like, when I first met you, I knew that you were going to get, I just knew you were going to be amazing, you know? But you have to have those tools and strategy. You have to know how to work
Hmm.
it, you know? So,
It's very true. I just met with a teacher the other day just for like a coffee chat.
hmm
She had like caught a video or something,
hmm
and she was like, I often ask for just resumes beforehand because I already know they're going to ask me 100 questions about, all the things, which is fine. That's what I want them to do. But
right.
so I took a look at the resume and I didn't really see anything that was exciting to me. Like
hmm
I look at it oftentimes as like, okay, I'm going to hire you on my team. What would excite me about what I see here? And most of the time, I mean this in the nicest way, there's nothing super exciting because as teachers, we're not used to celebrating ourselves. And it's often shunned in the educator space to like
Yeah.
celebrate yourself too much
Yep.
or like, highlight yourself. But, it's really important that you're able to capture what you've done through numbers and celebrate those achievements.
Yeah.
And I think exactly what you say, like a lot of them are entrepreneurs or they've done fundraising or they organize long, very like large scale field trips for an entire, for their entire organization
Yeah.
or their entire school.
hmm
And they don't replicate that. I just see exactly that day to day area. And so oftentimes, when they're looking at their resumes, I also see them dropping off a lot of their like educator experience. And that's not what we want you to do. It's about telling it in the right story.
Exactly.
And it's a story that's applicable to other people because as educators, you look at it and but I say, hand it to your best friend, just share your resume with your best friend and ask them what you do in a day to day. And if
hmm
they can accurately describe what you're doing, then you're probably on the right track.
Yeah.
But if they can't and they look at it and they're like, okay, you just deal with kids all day,
Yeah.
it's probably what somebody else is going to see.
Yeah.
And all these other
Exactly.
people,
Yeah.
even if you transition to ed tech, there's a lot of people that are on the Canva for Education product work that I worked with at my previous company, Code Monkey, that are not educators.
Mm.
And they're going to look at your resume and not understand what you've done. They may not have any educator experience, even if they're working at an education product. So it's important that you can accurately share that. And I think having a resume coach, having a career services, you helping to do the resumes is important, but they still have to provide those details to you. You can't just like, you're not going to just blow smoke and be like, blah, 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 blah. I
Yeah,
think you've
because you
done
have
this
to be
because,
able to explain that in an interview. I'm not going to set you up
yeah,
for failure.
exactly.
That's why that
And
beginning process is so. I need to learn
yep,
about you. I need to know that
yep,
what we help you transition to, you will be comfortable with explaining what you'll be comfortable elaborating what we've already updated on the resume.
yeah. It's just important that you look at yourself in that, like underneath, not necessarily like underneath the microscope, but like there are a ton of things: project management,
hmm
customer success, which I know everyone wants to go into,
I know.
instructional design,
There's a lot
curriculum
of customer
design, because that
success
seems
roles that have
natural.
popped. I mean, I know it's oversaturated, but these companies they need customer success, you know. So in that sense, like us talking about the right language, we need to talk about your people skills. We need to talk about you being able to persuade people to renew, you know. I mean, there's different customer success roles, but hey, teachers, you know, like those representatives that come out to your school and try to get you to adopt a certain curriculum, or they're customer success agents or representatives, or they're also called another role that I love helping educators explore is implementation specialists, where
Mhm.
they're like the representative, they go out to the school, they do professional development, teach you how the curriculum works or ed tech product works, and they travel to different schools to help them implementation specialists. So you highlighting your training abilities, if you've ever, even if you've done it small scale, even if you've
Yep.
mentored teachers, if you are the point person for learning new technology at your school, if you are the one
Have
that,
rolled out all the devices to
yeah,
your school,
yes,
if you're maintaining them, if you've
mm,
done, I don't know, if you, a lot of times, even just this educator I met with the other day, she had on there that she had mentored teachers
right,
and mentored 3 teachers. And I was like, okay, but but you've done a lot of things. Like you've helped coach them, you've
Yeah.
guided them, you reviewed their lesson plans, you've
Right.
given them
Like, how did
feedback.
you mentor them? It's the
Mhm,
how that I see is the biggest thing that's missing from teaching resumes. They're
mhm,
very, very simple, and it's like you have to put yourself in the mindset of, if a person reads your resume, what's going to want to invite you to an interview? Like, what about your day to day is going to cause them to ask more questions? That you have to realize that they either want you to be an extension of what they're already doing, or they want to bring you on to do new things,
mhm.
new processes. You being the subject matter expert on ELA or the math curriculum or anything. And so you just saying I mentored 3 teachers, it's, it's not enough.
Yeah. And that's what I told her. I was like, "Listen, you've done so much. Like that's
Hmm.
the thing about teachers. You have so much to offer
So much.
and probably more than just like a, a regular person that is going out of college or whatever and
Yes.
moving into the career space. You have so much experience. Is about telling the story in the right way.
Yeah.
And the resume helps you get there. The LinkedIn helps you get there.
Hmm.
But you need to understand that because you have to craft your own narrative for when you do go to the interview and somebody's like, hey, tell me about what you can bring to the table. And it's like, okay, well, I've launched 3 ed tech products from start to finish. I realized, and I've been telling this to educators, did you experience failure? Because guess what? There's a lot of failure in the world that we have to learn from and we have to learn from quickly. So
Absolutely.
what did you do when you realized there was some failure and you weren't having as much success with this
Yes.
rollout as you
Talk
thought?
about,
That's
like,
what a company wants to
challenges
know. What
that you've
happens
had. Yeah.
when shit hits the fan? What do
Yeah.
you do and how do you establish yourself as a leader in this space? And you know how to do it. You fail
Yeah.
every single day in the classroom,
Yeah.
every day.
Yes.
So you need to show other people how you learn from that failure quickly and be able to transition it. And you just, I think what teachers need to understand is you have it, quantify it, which means
Mhm.
less than a number, how many trainings you've delivered. What asset did you produce? That means what content did you create to
Mhm.
show what you did?
Yeah.
And what metrics, meaning what success or failure rates did you see from that? And if you did experience failure, what did you do? If you experienced success, how did you make sure that you had long-term success for greater growth of this thing? Because as a customer success manager, your job is to make sure that they have success of the product. You are
Yeah.
making sure the customer has
With
success.
success.
That means what happens when they're not using it, which happens all the time. And then what are you going to do to get them back on board and get them the wheels moving again so that you
Yeah.
can
'Cause
get
that
extra
can make or
money
break
from the sale?
if that can make or break if they renew, with the
Mhm.
company.
And
Um,
that's why teachers are so good at customer success, in my
they
opinion,
yeah.
because that's what you do. You literally fail every single day and you have to
Yes.
get these students, you have to pull them up from the bootstraps and you have to be like, listen, you do know how to do this. I'm going to show you how to do it
Right.
in a different way.
Yeah. And
That's what we want
it's
to know.
being innovative, coming with fresh
Mhm.
ideas, and just also, like, you teachers are so good at customer success in a lot of roles with ed tech because they've been the consumer.
Mhm.
They know what the other side of that looks like, you
Yep.
know? And which is why, it, ed tech is great. I've helped a lot of teachers get into corporate as well. Teachers, please understand. Educators, please understand. Ed tech is not the only way to go either.
Oh, thank you for saying that.
You could do nonprofit, you could do, corporate. Even if you want to stay like education based, I've helped so many teachers get into learning and development. That's still using your education background. You're
Can you tell people what learning and development is? Because
yes.
when I often share that, they're like, "Well, what is learning development?" I don't know what you're saying. So, I think it'd be good for you to highlight learning and development because I do think teachers make a really good switch into learning and development, but I
Yeah.
think they don't understand what it is or what the role entails.
Yeah. So let me just start here. Most of the educators that I've helped to get in that space have done professional development trainings. So just to put your mindset with how that extends to learning and development being in corporate. So most of the time you are doing trainings, presentations in some aspect to the staff. So it's important on your resume, or if you put it in your mind that it's important that you are highlighting that you know how to look at data. Like if there's surveys given out or anything, and you know exactly what type of training that they need to have. You can put presentations together, you can do slideshows, you can do research and data to back up what you're presenting. Learning and development is you're teaching them something new. You're teaching the staff a better way of doing something. You're showing them the proof and the data that backs up what you're talking about. So, for example, one of my success stories, she was one of the first teachers I helped actually. She's originally from Texas, and she was actually at the time living in New York, and she was an instructional coach. And what she did was she reached out, she got, a pretty big package because she's like, I want to move back to Texas. I need everything. I need interview help. I need cover letter. I need resume. Like I need everything. And so we helped her with all of that. And she got a job at Harris Health System as a senior learning and development specialist. She's been there for a couple of years now. And let me tell you, she doesn't have a medical background at all. But guess what? Because she's done professional development, she's coached teachers, she's developed, content for her presentations and her trainings. She knows how to look at curriculum and say, this is the way that you need to do this. We were
Deliver
able
it.
to update her resume to reflect that, even though she doesn't have a medical background. But guess what? We highlighted that she was able to look at something, look at curriculum, look at information from the hospital, from Harris Health System, and turn it into professional development training, learning and development. So even if you have mentored educators in a small group, if you've been like a teacher lead, if you've been an instructional coach, if you've a lot of principals, they have to do, trainings and give presentations to their staff, their teachers. You have that foundation to transition into that. And I'm sure your teaching resume probably doesn't reflect that enough. So what we do is, just to give you a little tip into like our processes as far as resumes, we like to get specific information before they even get to the experience section. Top of your resume is a attention grabber. So you need to have some information at the top of your resume in like 6 seconds. If someone's reading your resume in 6 seconds, you to be able to highlight, yeah, I've done trainings, I've done professional development, I've done content, I'm able to look at curriculum, I'm able to modify curriculum, I'm able to put presentations together. And then that pulls their attention to read like your actual duties, type of trainings you've done, the type of teachers you've mentored. It's important to give just enough information for them to say, oh, I want to learn more about how she did this or how he's done this, and see if he or she would be a good fit. So learning and development, training, analyzing data, researching, putting information together so that it makes sense for who you're presenting it to.
Yeah, it's just important. It's important. I think what we've captured is that it's really important to understand that you have more skills than what you think you do.
Yep.
That you have a way to quantify and measure that success, whether that's with students, whether that's teaching it to adults, and that there's probably more roles than you think there are out there, which is the power of research and or networking, which is really, really important.
Yes.
So I would like to transition. I think I would like to chat with you a bit about networking and the role that it plays with you teaching them how to do the outreach, but like, what is the true importance of networking? Seasoned, I mean, becoming a new teacher and transitioning out of the space, or even me, and the importance of like continuously networking.
So I would say the first step is, of course, making sure that your LinkedIn is optimized. And what that means is it needs to pretty much match what your resume says. So if you already have your resume done, it is a lot easier to just transfer that information over to your LinkedIn. because you have to think about it. LinkedIn is just like any other social media platform as far as how algorithms work. So you have to make sure you have keywords that is going to be easier, make it easier for recruiters to find you. So I was reading the article, LinkedIn and Indeed, I believe, are like the top two places where where recruiters and hiring managers look for talent. I would say LinkedIn probably over Indeed, but like, LinkedIn, they can get deeper information about like your personality, because you can kind of showcase your personality a little bit more than like on the traditional resume, of course. So when it comes to networking, that's the first thing. And then get in inboxes. Start having coffee chats with people, even if the company that you are interested in isn't hiring yet. I just put a post up the other day on my LinkedIn and said, start networking and reaching out to people that work at these companies before they're actually hiring for a role that you would be a good fit for. Because guess what? Eventually they will. And guess who they will go to first to say, hey, there's a position open and I've known you for some time. I know your work ethic. You should apply to this, and I'll see if I can get your application pushed through. Also, posting content, resonating with content, liking content, commenting on company articles or posts. So it's you have to have a solid strategy. And what we do at T Lassiter Services is we actually help with that part. We send messages on your behalf. Like once your resume and all that is over, the later part that we help with as far as continuing services, a part of that is I have a department that helps you to reach out to recruiters. We send messages on your behalf once you've applied to the job. And it has been working. It has been getting their attention. We want to make recruiters' jobs easier. Like, hey, you don't have to look through all these hundreds of people that you are like, I'm going to tell you that my client she's perfect for this. You can skim her resume, but I'm telling you, give her a chance. So, so yeah, let's hop in my inbox on LinkedIn, everyone, at Tyrina Lassiter. And
so it sounds like you've done a lot of really great work with teachers in transitioning. We've talked a lot about the things that would be easy for them to do and to transition, and some things that they should look for. If somebody, first, thank you so much for coming on today.
no
But if
problem.
somebody wanted to reach out to you, learn more about your content, that sort of a thing, what would be the best way to do so?
So on LinkedIn, my name is Tyrina Lassiter. I am very, very active on there. So definitely connect with me there. I push out a lot of content about how your resume should look, networking, interview tips, like the whole nine. As far as connecting with me on other platforms, on Instagram, I am edtransition.navigator. I post a lot of reels talking about what companies are currently hiring educators, and I'm very transparent about where I find these jobs, so you can look yourself. I also have like live meetings with my previous clients, so you can see exactly what we did for them. So yeah, connect with me on there. And then my website is www.tlassiterservices.com. We do have a chat box feature. If you want to ask us questions, my customer service staff will answer any questions that you have about any of the services on our website. And we offer everything. Anything that you can think of that you need in your transition, we offer it. So check it out.
Amazing. We'll make sure we link that below. And Tyrina, thank you so much for joining us today. And
No
we will see
problem. See you next
everybody
time.
next time.
Bye.
Bye, everybody. Thank you so much. You've made it this far. We are so thankful that you're here. Make sure to hit the subscribe button, thumbs up, comment below, and join us for all of our next videos. Thank you so much for joining us as we disrupt education together. See you guys soon. Bye, everybody.